Hey guys, it's KillerPigeon back with another daily vlog. We're on to day 2 and I haven't quit yet. Well done, me. Uh, but I just want to say, to start us off, thank you for the wonderful messages and support you guys have been given. I've had a bunch of DMs through just people, that can either relate or, they're just sending their best wishes. So I always appreciate that. I think one of the things I was highlighting in that some of the comments was that it's kind of weird to have those feelings and express yourself in this medium because one, in a lot of ways, I'm blessed to be able to do the job I do, and two, I guess it's also the element of like, uh, I guess you could say that I'm a little bit too critical myself, which kind of leads into today's subject. So today, I decided like to talk a bit about perfectionism and why it's not as great as some people kind of assume it is. So yeah, like I would say that perfectionism is genuinely a curse that appears as a gift to people. So from a young age, I've kind of had that about me, and the worst part is that I know that perfection is impossible to attain, but that sure as hell doesn't stop you striving for it. And that sounds good, right? But then you reach a point where it starts to get bad, where you are pursuing something too hard or you're thinking about things too much. I used to, when I was younger, I loved sketching and pretty damn good at it as well. People would always compliment me on it, and looking back now, I kind of realized that they complimented me on it, that I was decent at it. But at the time, like I'd say like, I don't know, I would sketch myself, not myself, but like say I'm sketching a piece of art or whatever, and I'll sketch it all out. So I was like, wow, that's really good. I was the type of person that would nod, and then I'd look back myself, and all I'd see is flaws, and I'd erase 2/3 of it, maybe more, and then I'd go again, and then I'd do the same thing. Instead of like just small erases, by the way, we're talking like half a picture just gone. That was me through and through. It was something that eventually drove me away from drawing because I just couldn't take the creative criticism of my own mind, right? It wasn't even about what other people were saying, it was what I was saying. And it's something that I still struggle to deal with these days, and it's something that I need to figure out ways to get better at. So like the most recent example is when I came out here to the We Play event. I was meant to be a caster, but I decided to take on the host role and try and make it my own, and that was like nothing was planned with that, nothing at all. And I'd say like in reflection it went well because of that. But every time someone would say that I'd done something good or whatever, or I worried that I'd done something bad, I would just like assume that it was bad, right? So it's like someone will say, "You done a good job," I'm like thanks, and then I start to think about it, and then I start to think I'd done a bad job, and I start to think about the things I could have done better. I could have done this, I could have done that, right? And that's kind of for a long time now been my one of my biggest flaws is how well or not well I can handle planned situations. I'd say one of my biggest strengths is that I'm incredibly good at improv. I know, let's blow my own trumpet, but like for real, every time I was on the host role and I wasn't thinking about what I was going to say, it was good. If I had a little bit of time to think about what I was going to say, maybe it didn't come out as smooth, or that's how I felt it didn't, or like the panel wasn't as smooth. And it's kind of crazy because everyone else is always talking about how they prep and they do all these different things. And sure, I can see like the cute notes. I say cute, actual notes like, oh, Secret has X wins against Nigma in the last 20 games or something like that for a section, right? Cool. But I know that like some people would like to plan out what they're going to say, sort of thing. Obviously not word for word, but kind of loosely. And I just can't do that. I can't function like that. I haven't been good at function that way. It's why when I'm given something that is required to be in the broadcast, I'm like, can I word tweak this? Like, are there keywords that need to be here? Can I kind of go off script? And usually, thankfully, they like that because it adds a bit of personality. That's always been one of the big benefits. I mean, it's like, if you ask me what my biggest skill is, I jokingly just call it winging it. I'm very good at winging it. And that kind of owes itself to that. And I think the other thing is that perfectionism has this really weird kind of angle to it where people assume that because you strive for perfection, you're always doing better. And it's not true. So you can overthink things. You can reach a cap on something where you've actually you have actually perfected it, but you don't see that cap. You just keep going and you make it worse for yourself. And eventually, like, because you had something here and you kept trying to reach like this tiny piece above, which is complete, maybe you start getting lower and lower and lower, and the quality of work can like decrease. And it's that kind of notion. Like say you're playing, for example, Dirt 2, and you're trying to improve at a role, and you're like locking down the macros reasonably well, but there's like the wider details, like bigger things like laning, etc. But then you get stuck in the details, right? Because you're a perfectionist, you think that that's where the problem is. When the issue, if you like talk to a pro, it would just be a giant gaping issue that you'd somehow miss because you over focus as well, right? So that's kind of a problem. As you reach a point where instead of getting better, you like through realizing what you need to add to your play or improve, you get obsessed about like why what you've done currently isn't good enough. And I think like if we could list this off right, so that's the ability to improve. Perfectionism screws with your ability to appreciate, right? So we already highlighted this a little bit, where I'll finish a segment or whatever, I'll do a panel or do a cast. So I'm like, great job, dude. It's like, well, actually, that's even someone else, right? Like I can't like walk away. I will walk away for a second. I'm like, I've done a good job, and then I'll ruin it, right? It's this issue of living in the past, and that's where I can stumble. When I can just keep plowing forward without having time to think, that's when I like feel I do my best work, because you can have a conscious moment where you're like, okay, that seemed to work, and then you just go again, right? You haven't got time to like break it down, and you end up psychoanalyzing yourself essentially along the way. So perfectionism also ruins the ability to plan ahead. We already hit on this, because I have to play in the moment. I can't plan ahead as easily. Sure, there are things that logically you can, in life, but let's say like we're talking a stream or a YouTube video like this. Like the only thing I said I was going to do this daily. I woke up yesterday. I woke up today rather, and I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. And I was like, perfectionism maybe. And I've just tried to, like, I'm now winging it really. So what else there? There's ability to self-appreciate, which we were highlighting a little bit earlier, is that someone, like, I could have god-tier people like Red Eye, Shiva, Lizard, I could have OD Pixel, all these different people, Golden Boy, whoever else. They could come to me and they could go, you're amazing. You've done a great job with that. And that should have, like, weight, especially when you get it from people who don't necessarily give out their credit as often, right? But it goes in one ear and then it slowly like deprecates in value very quickly, because it's just my brain is then overflowed with a critical counterthought from myself. Like, was it a good job? I mean, I could have done that better. I could have done this better. Like, I think the most recent one is Love Liz. He genuinely said, by the way, I mean, he won't mind me saying, it's like, it's very simple. He's like, by the way, I think you've done a great job hosting this event. And I was like, thank you. And it wasn't too bad because we were getting ready to go on a panel, so I didn't have as much time to think about it. But afterwards, like, the more I thought about it, it's like, did I really do it? So that's kind of a crazy part to it, is like people that should have a valid opinion and like maybe don't give out their opinion like it's business cards at a business conference, right? It is discarded, ironically enough, to keep that card form, and you don't appreciate it enough, or you appreciate it initially and then you just immediately, it's like there's a person in the room that's just calling you crap. So it's like, in my brain, anything that like Reddit or Twitch chat could throw at me is 10 times worse for myself, really, which I guess is like a beautiful hard-skinned thing from like you won't be that affected by those elements, but it's not a good thing. It actually makes it worse. I guess from that, even if it's positive feedback or negative feedback, like it is always a negative loop feed. So someone say you do a good job, you think bad. Someone says you do a bad job, you get really obsessed about why you done a bad job. It's that whole notion. I think like a few people on this, I think Slacks had a comment where he's like he feeds on the hate of like the one person in a Reddit thread that says they got a problem, right? And the other casters and such do it, right? You scroll down, yeah, good job, and there's one person that says bad, and you're like, what did I do wrong? And that's something I'm like still working on. It's something I like say working on, because really I've become very conscious of it incredibly recently. I'd say like I only gave it a proper nod at the start of this event when someone said that's unhealthy, and you need someone to sometimes say that type of thing to you, right? So how I'm going to deal with that exactly, I'm not sure. I think I have to go through a method of positive reinforcement of other people, positive reinforcement myself, not to a point of denial where you don't understand what you've done wrong, what you could have done better. But it's all about like me learning to, more importantly, not live in the past, because that's what happens when you do that. Is that you work on an in hindsight logic then, but you don't focus on what you're going to do next. You focus on what you could have done better previously, and that's already locked in. That's the past. I'm not a time traveler. I'm not Doctor Who. I'm not. I don't know what like is popular for Americans in terms of time travel. Doctor Who's the big one. You should watch that. But it's something I need to stop doing because the more time I spend locked in the past, the more time I'm running blind in the future. And while I do work good on improv, it stops you appreciating anything you do further down the line because you're too busy disgusted with what you've done previously. I think that'll do. I actually thought that was going to be a really short video, but it ended up okay on length by the looks of it. If you guys have anything you want to hear about, be sure to mention it in the comments. Any sort of questions, I'll try and answer them. Whether it's a simple one, I'll answer it maybe in the YouTube comments section. If you have an idea of like a video you want to see, let me know. Like I said, this is all being done basically improv, unplanned, day to day. Wake up, what we're gonna do. So if you have any direction, anything you want to hear about, I'm more than happy to accommodate that. We might try and like mix up the format where maybe it's not always talking about myself, but it could be talking about Dota 2, esports, whatever. Like any ideas you got, I appreciate it. And honestly, thank you for watching another 12 minutes of this. I'm impressed. Be sure to like, comment, do whatever. YouTube algorithms. Damn, I'm gonna get better than that. Eventually, I'm gonna be like the generic guy at the start that has like a cool, hey, if you want to help the channel, but we're not there yet. So I'll just kind of say any likes, any shares, anything you do is appreciated, and hopefully you stick with the series. See you next time.